40 years. Technically more than that with this soul plumber, breaking away from his days as a carpenter going after Donkey Kong, now Cranky Kong, whose game I reviewed earlier this year, and going into his own legacy that shaped gaming forever. And of course, being a lifelong Nintendo fan, it was indeed Mario that was my first time experiencing video gaming with Super Mario World. That will not be my choice for a review today. In fact, I was having a hard time deciding what Mario game to look at, until I remembered even Nintendo had a theme with Super Mario Galaxy, a game I hadn't played and 200%ed, yes, I said 200%, more on that later if you never played, since I lived in England between 2010 and 2014, owning the PAL UK version and everything. So I figured that would be a good place for me, especially since I got in the mood to play Mario Galaxy again, especially since it was ported over to the Switch. Twice, in one limited compilation with Mario 64 and Sunshine, as well as a newly released double pack with Super Mario Galaxy 2. In any event, how did this literal planet-hopping adventure fare for our plumber after all these years? Let's find out. The story of the game is Mario gets invited by Princess Peach to visit her during the Star Festival. Of course, the King Koopa himself, Bowser, has to ruin it with another coup on the Mushroom Kingdom and kidnapping Princess Peach, leaving Mario to once again rescue the princess. This time, traveling across the galaxy with the mysterious Rosalina, the adoptive mother to childlike star creatures called Lumas, assisting them in restoring their ship and eventually getting Luigi involved. Beyond Rosalina's own backstory, told through a children's storybook, the overall plot is simple, but it works. On to the gameplay. Super Mario Galaxy is, as the name suggests, taking Mario back to outer space. The first time since Super Mario Land 2, at least as far as the platformers are concerned. Except unlike that game where it's a corner of the world you have to visit before fighting Wario, it's the theme throughout this installment, and the fact that Mario no longer needs a spacesuit, but anyway. And being a 3D platformer, Nintendo takes advantage of its setting in ways you couldn't for a 2D game on the Game Boy. For one, Mario now does his platforming on planetoids, think the size of King Kai's world in Dragon Ball Z, even on asteroids and space stations. In fact, the rotating perspective you see as Mario moves reminds me a lot of some of the levels in Psychonauts. But of course, understanding that it's a 3D Mario platformer, there is a hub world that gradually unlocks from the levels within each corner of the galaxy, to more corners of it to unlock after the boss level, rewarding Mario a grand star. Unlike, say, Mario 64, I feel there is a little more freedom, like I didn't need to wait for a power-up to unlock to collect most of the stars I want to collect before I move on to the next world, which for me is great because I was hooked on this title the first moment I played. 2, as it was on the Wii, motion controls are involved. On its original hardware, you needed the nunchuck with the Wii remote, as you'll be doing quite a bit of it between using a cursor to navigate the menus and gathering star bits. It's also used for a basic spin move, which has similar functionality as its punches and kicks in Mario 64. In addition, being able to grab shells faster, but more notably, it's used for minigames where Mario must ride either a ball containing a star he needs to collect, riding a manta ray on currents of water, and using the cursor to blow wind on a bubble he's riding. And translating to the Switch, well, the controls are mixed. For the Switch version, I primarily played with the Pro Controller, or at least my cheaper variant by PowerA, with handheld mode second. And for the most part, it played fine, but boy were they made with the Wii Remote and Nunchuck in mind. When it comes to using the cursor, Nintendo had to program a resync button to center the cursor as there was no sensor bar on the top or bottom of the TV this go-around. Even then, you have to awkwardly flail the Pro Controller to gather the star bits you need to complete the game, or for the bubble mini-games. Worse comes from the mini-games with the ball and manta ray. God damn, these are frustrating. Motion controls are required in all the versions of the game, and controlling these can be a nightmare. It's really not easy to turn at the right angle and at the right speed, so it's really easy to fall off. Again, I was mouthing off like a hedgehog with a gun, and how it translated from Wii to Switch makes it feel pretty jarring. In handheld mode, it's even worse, mainly with the use of the touchscreen to gather star bits and the bubble minigames. It just breaks the necessary pace needed to play this game. But putting aside the extra stuff, the main platforming is as terrific as ever. The controls are responsive as you'd expect, and Nintendo did well to diversify the settings, even with the typical settings of lush land, ice, volcanoes, yada yada. Plus, they added some new challenges like Prankster Comets, each a color coding with its own challenge. Red is the Speedy Comet, in where Mario must beat a stage before time runs out. White is the Daredevil Comet, where Mario must beat a boss or level with 1 life point. Blue is the Cosmic Comet, where a galactic clone of Mario challenges you to a race. Yellow is the Fast Bow Comet, which explains itself. And finally, the Purple Comet, where Mario just collects a certain number of purple coins. All of which adding replay value alongside all the levels to 100% the game, should you want to. And once you do, you can play the campaign again as Luigi, making it 200%, which I did when I first played the game. Not sure I will do now, sadly, as I got other games to and or review, in addition to some real life stuff. But it's also not a Mario platformer without the power-ups. You have your classic Fire Flower, but you also have your other power-ups like Ice Mario giving him the ability to skate over water and lava, Bee Mario giving the limited ability to fly and climb on honey, Boo Mario giving him ghost powers, and Cloud Mario allowing him to create clouds and stepping on them. Anyway, onto the visuals, and even with the basic cartoony textures on the Wii, which was the weakest in graphics power of Gen 7, the game is still gorgeous. And the Switch version looks nicely cleaned up as well from 3D All-Stars. Very colorful, even still has some details like the cobblestones on the roads and shiny lava rocks to stand on. And the shading techniques used making the character models look nicer than they ever did. And it goes without saying that the soundtrack is amazing. Perhaps the best Mario has ever been. But if there was one extra thing I didn't like about this game, Bowser felt too easy. And even the final battle. Maybe it's because I was a kid when I first played Super Mario World, but I felt like Bowser was a challenge there. Here, real easy to figure out. And it goes with Bowser Jr. too. Some of the lower bosses had a bit more of a challenge. But overall, Super Mario Galaxy is perhaps my most favorite of the 3D platformers in the franchise. Amazing soundtrack and perhaps the best of the platforming overall. Just wish the more gimmicky side of the controls were better, especially in the translation to the Switch, but it's still quite playable.